Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. Hope that you all are doing well. My name is, for those who don't know me, my name is James Weeks. I'm the author of the book, Meditations Across the King's River, African Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey. And I help people with strategies for emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, financial wellness. And for more information about me, visit acrossthekingsriver.com. Today, I wanted to share some insights and talk to you about something that I'm passionate about, something that I discuss also in my book, Meditations Across the King's River. And that's financial wellness, financial literacy, financial empowerment. So, in my book, both the second version of my book as well as the first version of my book, there's a chapter called Balancing uh, Spiritual and Financial Wellness. Why is this so important to me, and why should this be important to you? When I wrote the first version of my book, there were some people who felt like, well, why is that in the book? There are some people who felt, well, there shouldn't be conversation around financial wellness, wealth building in a book that's mostly around spirituality. And also, I remember one time I was having a radio interview, and the host said something similar too. He said, well, he didn't know why that was in the book. So let me tell you why. Oftentimes in spiritual communities, people take the position that, oh, they're spiritual, therefore they don't really have to know anything about money or finances, and that's not so important because they're spiritual. And here's my position on that. I understand why people feel that way. And maybe at one point on my journey, I might have felt that way too. But I think that's a mistake. I think that's a huge, huge, huge mistake. And what that does is it leaves our communities like vulnerable to all kinds of exploitation. It puts us in a position, it puts our communities in a position of weakness where we can't fight back, where we cannot uh, take care of things that should be taken care of. So for people who say that, well, they don't need to understand finances, they don't need to focus on financial wellness, one of the questions I have for them is, well, the things that you cared most deeply about, are you able to take care of them? Are you able to fund projects you care about? Are you able to spend time with people you say you love? These are questions that we should be asking ourselves. And to be honest, oftentimes the answer is no. We say these things, there's all these things that uh, we say we care about, but we we can't support them in ways that we should be. So when we say no to financial empowerment, when we say no uh, to educating ourselves about wealth building of any kind, what we're doing is we're shifting power away from ourselves. So just imagine that. Just imagine that you're shifting power away from yourself every time we take that position. And as it's just like your power is like evaporating. Just imagine this. The power that you have, whether you think you have a lot of power or a little bit, whatever, that power is evaporating. So when we say no to financial empowerment, financial literacy, we're letting that power go. We're shifting power away from ourselves. And as we shift power away from ourselves, guess what? We become weaker and weaker and weaker. And guess what? The people that we say that we love, they become weaker and weaker and weaker. And guess what? The communities that we live in become weaker and weaker and weaker. And guess what? The next generation coming behind us, they also become weaker and weaker and weaker. Um, and also, when we say no to financial literacy, when we say no to financial empowerment, the other thing that happens is what we're saying, in essence, is that our time is not that valuable. Because what happens is that we end up wasting time, wasting a lot of time. And when you think about this life on earth that we all have, and how people say things like life is short, and well, what happens when we're not financially empowered? We waste a lot of time. We waste a lot of that time also. Why is that so? It's because we're not using time efficiently. Our time isn't being used in an efficient way because we're not financially aware. So, case in point, I'll just give you an example. I have a very good friend of mine who he works as a taxi driver, and sometimes he might spend 14 hours a day, um, just trying to get a client, because the climate for taxi drivers has changed so much. It's a dying profession, right? Because of competition like Uber and Lyft. But anyway, my friend, he might spend 14 hours a day just out on the streets hoping to get a passenger for that day. He might get one passenger, he might get two passengers. This is all day long, right? So this is an example of how time is used inefficiently. uh, that time could have been used for some of that time could have been used for other things, whether it's spending time with family or doing things that he might enjoy. So again, when we're not financially strong, financially aware, our time is used in a very inefficient way. And that's something that we should keep in mind, whether it's working at a job that we don't like, that pays us very little, or whether we happen to be in a job that maybe it does pay us a lot, but the way how we're spending that time doesn't really uh, help us. It doesn't help us in the way that it could, if we knew, for example, how to grow money, how to have our money working for us instead of only working for money. And then finally, the third point I want to make is, when we say no to financial empowerment, financial literacy, what we're also saying, in essence, is that, well, then our health is not that important to us. These are all various types of consequences that come from lack of financial awareness, lack of financial planning, lack of not being financial strong. So when I say our health is when we say I say that our health is not that important, it's because we have less options for health care. And not only that, not only our physical health, but emotional. And this is because the reason why I say that, the main reason, is because the stress and the worry, just the stress alone around finances and not having it or struggling, can make us ill. So those are three consequences of saying no to financial empowerment: lack of power, wasting time, not using time efficiently, poor health. So a poorer quality of life overall. But when we say yes to financial literacy, when we say yes to learning, getting educated about uh, finances, we're saying yes to more clarity. So just imagine that clarity is a benefit of financial empowerment. Why? Because there's less confusion. So when you think about it, a lot of, big part of the world's population, walk around in a state of confusion because we don't know. We don't know how to to grow money. We don't know the different options that are available to us. So just by saying yes to financial empowerment, you are also saying yes to more clarity in your life. When we say yes to financial empowerment, we're also saying yes to potentially more peace of mind. Why so? Simply because of less worry, right? That's one of the benefits. That's another potential benefit of having financial knowledge. Not only is there more clarity because you know what to do, but potentially more peace of mind. And then another benefit of financial literacy, financial empowerment is feeling more empowered, not feeling that you're only at the mercy of a job, right? That they could threaten you by, let's say, firing you for speaking up or whatever. So there's that too. There's just more empowerment, not feeling as desperate, feeling that you can stand up and take a stand. So someone is asking a question. There was a comment. I'm going to put the comment here. Wealth is correlated to materialism. Maybe that's why many believe it should not be part of one's spiritual journey. And what are your thoughts about this? I mean, someone could look at wealth that way, but wealth is simply a tool. This is how I'm looking at this is a tool to take care of what you need to take care of. It's for me, it could be as simple as that, whatever it is. So for example, so many people like in my communities, they're into, let's say, African spirituality, African culture. So what if you had the tools to build a school or a compound in Africa that would promote African spiritual and philosophical values? That would be a good thing. But the issue is, well, many people, because we're not strong, things like that we cannot do. So wealth does not have to be associated with materialism. It could be associated with the other things I mentioned: peace of mind, clarity, better health, having more options, living life more on your own terms. So it's not just about having money, it's more about having options. Hello, Allison. Hello, hello. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. Love you. Um, and so the other thing about financial empowerment, one of the good things about it is that, guess what? One of the beautiful things is it's a journey, just like a spiritual journey. And you don't have to know everything all at once. You don't have to it's not about you need to know like every single thing about finances in order to move your life forward. No, 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 no. The beautiful thing about it is that you could do one thing at a time. You could decide that for the rest of 2024, for example, or whatever, you're going to focus on one thing. And you get to choose what that could be. It might be you're working on your credit. It might be you're learning more about business. It might be you're taking a course. It could be anything you want to be. So the beautiful thing about it is that it's not about you need to master every single aspect about your financial life all at once. No, you could do it bit by bit. You could do one thing this year, one thing in 2025, or two things, and do it that way. That's a practical way of getting ahead. On my own journey, at one point when I was researching this book, Meditations Across the King's River, and I was writing this book, at one point, for example, um, my life insurance had expired, and I was listening to educator Dr. Boyce Watkins, and he made a comment. Well, if you don't have life insurance, you must not care about your children. And so I said to myself, well, I need to make sure my life insurance is active again and current again. So it is, right. And then after my book was published, about 2 years ago, I got what's called a trust. And I won't go all into why trusts are important. I mentioned that in my book, but a trust is important because, it helps you preserve wealth. It helps you to pass wealth down to your loved ones if something were to happen to you, a house. So a lot of people don't have trust, and it just causes problems. But the point I'm trying to make here is I didn't always have a trust, right? That's something I had like 2 years ago. So the beautiful thing about your financial journey, again, it's not that you have to like do everything all at once. You could do things in phases, just bit by bit. But the most important thing is to, get on the journey and stay committed to the journey. Um, so just to give you some background, so on my own journey, I didn't always feel like as passionate about finances, wealth building as I do today. So on my own journey, I evolved, right? So it's not like I was always this way. It's not that I always had these views. It's not that I always had these skills. No, it's a evolution over time. And so one of the things, for example, that helped me become more passionate about this is because I work with many people in my work as a diviner, as a spiritual diviner in my tradition. And, as I worked with so many people over the years, I realized that even though people might be coming to me for different, with different challenges, different problems, everyone, for almost everyone, finances was part of their overall problem, right? In some way, it was connected. So let's say somebody, for example, came to me for divination, spiritual guidance, but they were having a relationship struggle problem. It could be that they were afraid of leaving that relationship because they were worried about their finances. Or let's say maybe they were asking me questions about their life purpose. Um, Maybe they're in a position, a profession they don't want to be in, but then they didn't want to make the position to something else, again, because of financial. So I started to see how finances was connected to everything. And then the other thing that started to happen, I started to look at other communities and I started to find out, ask myself, well, what are other communities doing? Why is it that my community tends to struggle so much, but other communities are not struggling as much? And again, that led me deeper into finding out, okay, what is it that other communities are doing that maybe our communities can do? And then also on my own personal journey, several years ago, my mom was sick for many years. And when she was sick, um, I had to help take care of her, as well as my wife, as well as my sister. And during that time, it was so financially draining. I began to see how easy it was for people to like lose property and lose homes, just because of my experiences. I saw how difficult it could be if someone gets sick. And it made me say to myself, I need to learn more about finances. So I want to talk just briefly now about some of the differences between the first version of my book, the second version of my book, as it relates to finances. Because in both books, there's a lot of changes to different areas, different chapters of the book, right? But I don't want to go into like every single chapter and all of the different changes in the book. I wanted to talk about finances. So in the first version of my book, one of the I talked about many financial strategies. One of the things that, for example, I talked about in the book was learning to investing in stock market, for example. And in the first version of the book, I quoted a well-known Black scholar activist, Dr. Boyce Watkins. And one of the things that he said is that, one, I'm reading from the book, uh, the Black community misses out on billions, if not trillions of dollars because the participation in the stock market is so low. Many of us are afraid because we think it's so too complicated, or we don't have enough money, or it's too risky. So again, learning more about the stock market. And one of the beautiful things that Dr. Boyce Watkins points out, and I mentioned again in this book, both versions, is that you could start with apps like Stash, for example, and Acorn. You could start with as little as $5 a day or more, right? It doesn't have to be. So you don't always have to start with a lot of money to begin in learning to invest, to begin investing in stocks. So the stock market was one of the many things I spoke about in the first version of the book, but also in the importance of improving your credit, getting life insurance, uh, saving more money, doing what's called estate planning, starting a business, for example. In this new version of the book, one of the things I talk about, there are two things. In the new version of the book, I talk about my journey as a trader in the largest financial market in the world, which is called the foreign exchange market, the Forex market. Just learning how to trade and compound money has been like absolutely life changing for me. That's what made me look at so much about life in a different perspective. Here's a comment that's coming in, so I want to share it. So this is Maya King, my dear wise friend, Maya King. And here's what she says. She says, I absolutely agree, Baba. I found that belief systems around the world where money is abundant, they have many principles and laws around money and abundance, and most specifically intention. They have learned that it is important to have abundance so that they can have the honor of being a blessing to others or to be used by the Creator as an answer to another's prayers. Once I learned this, I decided I'm ready to be abundant and surrendered control of my life. So that spirit, I can't see the rest of the comment yet. But yeah, so I love that. And so to Maya's point, so yeah, so one of the beautiful things about, again, becoming more financially aware is you can start to look at life in a completely different way. So for example, like what we think reality is, how people define reality, a lot of times it's based on, unfortunately, a lot of times it's based on not only what people think but their relationship to money, right? And not knowing what's possible. But I promise you, I deeply believe the stronger your knowledge becomes about financial things, you'll start to look at your life in a different way, in a completely different way. You'll start to look at your potential in a different way. You might even start to look at your purpose in a different way. And that's because you have more information. You are aware of more options. You start to realize that the way you've been living, maybe for the last 5, 10 years, you don't have to continue to live in that way. And so it could be like just a total mind shift in how we live, how we think, um, and even the contributions that we make to the life of other people. So again, in this new version of the book, I still talk about some of the older things, uh, and I talk again about my journey as learning how to trade in the largest financial market in the world. But I also talk about something that's very important, and that's cryptocurrency. Learning about cryptocurrency, which is a wealth trend. When I wrote this book, I wanted to make a book that's relevant to our time. That's not just that people can take action on. And so, cryptocurrencies right now is one of the things that we should be more aware of. I do plan to have experts in cryptocurrency come and share some of their knowledge with us. I'm going to just share a few quotes about cryptocurrency, again, from the new version of my book. And but before that, I do that. I want to share a quote from a finance mentor that I admire, have admired. Her name is Dr. Jewel Tankard. She's the author of the book called The Mind of a Millionaires. And here's what she says. And again, this is a quote of hers that I included in my book. Um, Wealth education is not just for the privileged, it is for the hungry, the teachable, whoever is ready to stretch, grow, and go. Then she says, most women are one paycheck or one man away from being bankrupt or homeless. It's time for us to change. It's time for that to change. The days of us just waiting for someone to save us financially is over. It's time for us to save ourselves. So, and I'm reading on, in addition to investing in traditional assets like stocks, gold, silver, and real estate, Dr. Jewel Tankard also believes strongly of investing in cryptocurrency, even though some critics say might feel it's too risky. Here's what she says. She says, uh, I have a tremendous urgency in my heart that every man, woman, and child needs to move capital into cryptocurrency. We cannot sit back and watch this wealth transfer and not get involved. It's almost like when Harriet Tubman would go to plantations and say, move now. There might not be another opportunity. So, again, that's one of the changes in the book in the finance section. There's commentary now about cryptocurrency. Some of my mentors, experts feel that the next 2 to 3 years it's just very important to be investing in these spaces, because after 2 to 3 years, we're going to be that window will have gone, and we would have missed out on an important time historically. So I want to share just a few more things, and I'm open to any questions or comments of any kind, so feel free to comment. So one of the other things that motivated me a lot when I wrote the first version of my book was there was a study called The Road to Zero Wealth. And it's a study that says that the average African Americans are on a trajectory of having zero wealth by the year 2053. And Latinos were also on a trajectory of having zero wealth, I think like 10 years after that. So does this mean that we need to be on zero wealth? No, but it does mean that we have to educate ourselves. It doesn't mean that this is going to happen to you, but it means that the way how things are trending for a lot of people, we're heading to a space that's not good. And that's why financial empowerment, financial literacy is so important. So, like I said, this is not to say we have to know everything today or do everything all at once, but bit by bit, we can definitely educate ourselves. You might not be where you want to be now, but I promise you, if you take some of this seriously, the next year could be so different for you. The next 2 years could be so different for you. The next 3 years could be so different for you. So I want to close by just saying, like, just a few more thoughts, a few more things to keep in mind. One would be just make a decision to learn, whether it's through reading books, whether it's through attending workshops, whether it's attending seminars. Make a commitment to educate yourself. That's something that I personally do. The other thing that could help you is just having a mentor. So I have mentors in the space that I'm in when I just learning how to trade, learning how to invest. Having a mentors could really, really shorten your learning curve. It's just very, very important to have mentors. Also, another thing that's important would be to expand your circle. And what I mean by that is that um, if no one in your circle has knowledge about things like financial knowledge, for example, whether it's an invest in any area of financing, right? If no one in your circle has that type of information, has knowledge in that area, your chances of getting out of your situation is not good, right? And it's because no one in your circle has that information. So you want to make sure that in your circle there are people, okay, who are knowledgeable in areas that you are not. And again, it's not to say that you have to be an expert in all of these areas, but no, we need to expand the circle so that we're not talking only to people who have the same amount of knowledge that we have, but that we are expanding our horizon by talking to other people who have information that one they can share with us and that could be very beneficial to us. The other thing that I would say is just be committed. So one of the things that happens to a lot of people, just like with diet, just like with exercise, a lot of people on their financial journey, they stop, or for whatever reason, they get distracted or they get bored or laziness kicks in, and they don't continue to educate themselves. They stop the plan that they had, they don't follow it. And so when we don't follow our plans, we become our worst enemy. That's basically what happens, right? So being committed, you know, going the long distance, telling yourself that, hey, this is worth it. You know, you're working on your financial liberation. And then the other thing that I would say that's also important is maybe just focusing on one thing. um, Again, it's not feeling like you have to know like everything, but you could just focus on one area. Like if real estate is your thing, you could focus on real estate. You don't have to do stock market investment. You know, you could focus on just growing your business. I mean, so one of the things that happened to so many people is because when they first become aware of the different ways in which we might be able to make money, they start trying to do two things at once, or three things at once, or four things at once, or five things at once. And this is a mistake. Often, oftentimes you'll have better results if you would just stick to one thing, master one thing, become good at one thing, and then when once you get that one thing going, at some point you could branch out into something else. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you today. Again, I'm open to any more questions you might have or comments. Like I said, I do plan to bring other experts into the space to help educate and enlighten us on various things that are in this book around finance, especially because that's an area where our communities tend to be very weak in, and that must change. All right, so I'll just wait for just a few more seconds to see if anyone has any additional questions or comments. um yeah, all right, so I hope this was helpful uh to you. You know, definitely reach out to me. Okay, here's a comment from someone on LinkedIn. Let's see. One moment. Let me see if I could get this comment to come up. Hi, Bob. I'm committed to being a philanthropist through my business and supporting causes that are important to me and creating a lifelong endowment legacy for future generations. I recognize that I want to become more literal about some of the financial strategies you have mentioned. I will say that one of the major obstacles that I've overcome is demanding my worth and knowing my value, because I come from a religious tradition that undervalues my skill set and expects me to. I can't see the rest of the comment, but I could almost guess what he's saying. That expects me to provide my service. It's probably saying that expects me to provide my services for free. Yeah, and so yeah, I love this, and yes, it's true. Um, so that's the thing too. Um, it's not only it's something that a lot of, well, business owners struggle with, but as well as employees, demanding what's worth, right? Um, Not underselling yourself, right? Having a clear understanding of what your pricing structure should be, whether it's for a business or a service, you know. And so one tip that I always tell people, to be honest, is like when you're thinking about a service, let's say you're in business of any kind, uh, start out with the number that you have in mind that you think you should get paid, then raise that number, right? So the reason why that's important is because oftentimes we undersell ourselves, right? Because we're not compensating ourselves in a way that's just that it should be. And so a lot of business owners they undercharge. And another thing about business, if you do have a business, it would be to promote your business. That's something a lot of business owners struggle with, not promoting their business. So becoming effective at promoting your business and letting other people know the value, your value proposition, what your business has to offer. Oh, hello, Lorenzo. Lorenzo is my friend who made this wonderful quote about being committed to philanthropy, which is so, so, so important. Lorenzo is a deeply spiritual man, also a business owner. Him and his partner, they're into the aviation industry and they're doing amazing things. So Lorenzo, thank you so much for this comment. I love it. And I love your vision of creating a lifelong legacy for future generations. And Lorenzo, like I was saying, we can become literate, but it's just a journey of just patience, and just keep going. That's what I would say. And bit by bit, we begin to amass the knowledge that can help not just liberate us, but liberate others, our community. So I know you're going to get there. I have full faith and here to support you in whatever way I can. So here's another comment. This is from Mawete. Mawete would love to know like where you're tuning in from. Greetings, very informative live. Thank you, much needed. Thank you so much for joining us. I deeply appreciate you, Mawete. So if there's any other comments, be happy to. Oh, here's one. Oh, this is the comment. Oh, okay. The comment from Wealth is my friend Alicia. Right. Okay. Yeah. So beautiful, beautiful question, beautiful comment. Um, all right. Well, again, thank you all for joining me today. I'm grateful for the questions, grateful for the comment, grateful for your support. If you don't have my book yet, Meditations Across the King's River, African Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey, would appreciate it, your support. And again, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm very responsive and I love to respond to people. Love to respond to people. All right. Thank you very much for your time. I'm wishing all of you a beautiful weekend, and I'll see you very soon on the next Go Live. Thank you so much.